In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast. We are the brave and the bold.
Some evidence of a new Satanic Age. The 7 deadly sins of the Christian church are greed, pride, envy, anger, gluttony, lust, and sloth. Satanism advocates indulging in each of these, quote, sins, unquote, as they all lead to physical, mental, and emotional gratification. A Satanist knows there is nothing wrong with being greedy. It only means that he wants more than he already has. Envy means to look with favor upon the possession of others and to be desirous of obtaining similar things for oneself. Envy and greed are the motivating forces of ambition, and without ambition, there is very little of any importance would be accomplished. Now, gluttony is simply eating more than you need to keep yourself alive. When you have overeaten to the point of obesity, another sin, pride, will motivate you to regain an appearance that will renew your self-respect. Anyone who buys an article of clothing for a purpose other than covering his body and protecting it from the elements is guilty of pride. Satanists often encounter scoffers who maintain that labels are not necessary, and it must be pointed out to these destroyers of labels that one or many articles they find themselves are wearing are not necessary to keep them warm. There is not a person on this earth who is completely devoid of ornamentation. The Satanist points out that any ornamentation of the scoffer's body shows that he, too, is guilty of pride. Regardless of how verbose the cynic may be in his intellectual description of how free he is still wearing the elements of pride.
The Abracast, occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Abracast. I'm John Towers, and this is the Abracast. Hey, I'm sorry if it sounds weird. If this episode sounds weird, I have been aware of, and I've been tracking, I have a ghost in my soundboard somewhere. Somewhere in the linkage of all of these wires and microphones and monitors and whatnot, I have some audio artifacts I'm trying to chase down. So we're in a slightly different setting this evening, and I noticed there was some kind of glitch or reverberation in the intro music. So I apologize for that if I don't sort it out before I post this. We're getting back into this evening. Thanks everybody for listening. I appreciate it. I want to take a second to ask you guys to check out the website, Advertise.com. If you go to the store section, you can get the new t-shirts or the old t-shirt, all the t-shirts. Check out my deck of tarot cards that I did this year. It was my project this year. They're great. They're available now. However, it takes a little bit of time for the printers to do the fulfillment due to the pandemic. But if you go there, you can see like a little clip I do like a little clip of each section of the cards and kind of highlights the artwork and stuff from the cards. So check those out. Check out the t-shirts. I think the t-shirt I'm going to release for this episode is the Satanic Goat t-shirt. It's kind of like your classic. It's like your classic Baphomet head with the 5-star pentagram behind him with Samael and Lilith, and he's doing the classic "as above, so below" with his little hand. And yeah, go check it out. Even if you don't particularly want the shirt, you can check out the artwork. Also, sign into the newsletter. You get high res versions of all the art for all the t-shirts this month on there, on top of a lot of other stuff. We got a vessel of the art supporter, Matt, who keeps track of basically what looks like the end of the world, the news articles from the end of the world, and he curates those and supplies them to the newsletter, so they're all there. Literally, there's hundreds of links to all kinds of stuff. So that's good. That's all good. And yeah, okay. So we're continuing our dissection here of the Satanic Bible by Anton, Szandor, LaVey. And we've just kind of cracked into this section on the evidence of a new Satanic Age. I'm just going to kind of pick up right from here. But before I do, please raise your glass, whatever you're drinking on tonight, and join me in thanking my Patreon and Subscribe Star folks. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. Yes. Woo, woo. I'll be finishing up my calls for this month soon. If I owe you a call, there you go. You know, another recent shirt that would go with these episodes would be the Osculum in Fame shirts, too. I mean, I did that for a witchcraft episode, but, I mean, hey. All right, here we go. We were talking about, Anton here was talking about pride. Being reluctant to get up in the morning is to be guilty of sloth. And if you lie in bed long enough, you may find yourself committing yet another sin, lust. To have the faintest stirrings of sexual desire is to be guilty of lust. In order to ensure the propagation of humanity, nature made lust the second most powerful instinct, the first being self-preservation. Realizing this, the Christian church made fornication the original sin. In this way, they made sure no one would escape sin. Your very state of being is a result of sin, the original sin. The strongest instinct in any living thing is self-preservation, which brings us to the last of the deadly sins, anger. It is not our instinct for self-preservation that is aroused when someone harms us, but we become angry enough to protect ourselves from further attack. A Satanist practices the motto, if a man smite thee on one cheek, smash him on the other. Let no wrong go undressed. Be as a lion in the path. Be as dangerous even in defeat. And since man's natural instincts lead him to sin, all men are sinners, and all sinners go to hell. If everyone goes to hell, then you will meet all of your friends there, and heaven must be populated with some rather strange creatures if they all lived. For was to go to a place where they can strum harps for eternity. Times have changed. Religious leaders no longer preach that our natural actions are sinful. We no longer think sex is dirty, or that taking pride in ourselves is shameful, or that wanting something someone else has is vicious. Of course not. Times have changed. If you want proof of this, just look at how liberal the churches have become. Why, they're practicing all the things that you preach. Satanists hear these and similar statements all the time. They agree wholeheartedly, but if the world has changed so much, why continue to grasp at the threads of a dying faith? if many religious are dying their own scriptures because they are out of date and they are preaching the philosophies of Satanism. Why not call it by its rightful name, Satanism? Certainly, it would be far less hypocritical. In recent years, these have been an attempt to humanize the spiritual concept of Christianity. This has manifested itself in the most obvious non-spiritual means. Masses, which had been said in Latin, are now said in the native languages, which only succeeds in making the nonsense easier to understand, and at the same time robs the ceremony of its esoteric nature, which is consistent with the tenets of the dogma. It is much simpler to attain an emotional reaction using the words, phrases, and cannot be understood than it is with the statements, which even the simplest mind in question when hearing them in an understandable language. If priests and ministers were to have used the devices to fill their churches 100 years ago that they use today, they would have been charged with heresy and called devils, oftentimes persecuted, but certainly excommunicated without hesitation. The religionist wail, we must keep up with the times, forgetting that due to the limiting factors and deeply ingrained laws of white light religions, there can never be sufficient change to meet the needs of man. Past religions have always represented the spiritual nature of man, with little or no concern for his carnal or mundane needs. They have considered this life but transitory, and the flesh merely a shell, and physical pleasure trivial, and pain a worthwhile preparation for the kingdom of God. How well the utter hypocrisy comes forth when the righteous make a change in their religion to keep up with man's natural change. The only way Christianity could ever completely serve the needs of man is to become as Satanism is now. It has become necessary for a new religion based on man's natural instincts to come forth, yet they have named it. It is called Satanism. It is the power condemned that has caused the religious controversy over birth control measures, a disgruntled admission that sexual activity for fun is here to stay. It is the devil who caused women to show their legs to titillate men. The same kind of legs now socially acceptable to gaze upon, which are revealed by young nuns as they walk about in their shortened habits. What a delightful step in the right or left direction. It is possible we will soon see topless nuns sensually throwing their bodies about to the Missa Solomonis rock. Satan smiles and said he would like that fine. Many nuns are very pretty girls with nice legs. Many churches with some of the largest congregations have the most hand-clapping, sensual music, also satanically inspired. After all, the devil has always had the best tunes. Church picnics, despite all of Aunt Martha's talk about the Lord's bountiful harvest, are nothing more than a good excuse for Sunday gluttony. And everyone knows that lots more than Bible reading goes on in those bushes. The fundraising adjunct to many church bazaars is commonly... I'm sorry. It just cracks me up, man. Oh, boy. I've mentioned it on the show before. I used to look at these church functions, Sunday school and so forth, as definitely opportunity for dating or a quick roll in the bushes at the church picnic. So I just have to asterisk this because it's funny. I know I mentioned it on the show a couple of times, so I just thought it was really funny. The fundraising... I think what I actually said was trying to finger fuck someone in the back pew. I think. All right. The fundraising adjunct to many church bazaars is commonly known as carnival, which used to mean the celebration of the flesh, and now a carnival is okay because the money goes to the church so that it can preach against the temptations of the devil. It will be said that these things are only pagan devices and ceremonies and that Christians borrowed them. True, but the pagans reveled in the delights of the flesh and were condemned by the very same people who celebrate their rituals but call them by different names. Priests and ministers are on the front lines of peace demonstrations and laying on railroad tracks in front of trains, carrying war materials with as much dedication to their brothers of the cloth from the same seminaries who are blessing the bullets and the bombs and the fighting men as chaplains in the armed forces. Someone must be wrong someplace. Could it be that Satan is the one qualified to act as accuser? Certainly they named him that. When a puppy reaches maturity, it becomes a dog. And when ice melts, it's called water. When 12 months have been used up, we get a new calendar with the proper chronological name. And when magic becomes scientific fact, we refer to it as medicine, astronomy, etc. When one name is no longer appropriate for a given thing, it is only logical to change it to a new one, which better fits the subject. Why then do we not follow suit with the area of religion? Why continue to call a religion the same name when the tenets of that religion no longer fit the original one? Or, if the religion does preach the same thing that it always has, but its followers practice nearly none of its teachings, why do they continue to call themselves by the name given to followers of that religion? If you do not believe in what your religion teaches, why continue to support a belief which is contradictory with your feelings? You would never vote for a person or issue you did not believe in. So why cast your ecclesiastical vote for a religion which is not consistent with your convictions? You have no right to complain about a political situation you have voted for or supported in any way, which includes sitting back and complacently agreeing with your neighbors who approve the situation just because you were too lazy or cowardly to speak your fucking mind. I added the F word. So it's just is relevant right now. That's all. So it is with religious balloting. Even if you cannot be aggressively honest about your opinions because of unfavorable consequences from employers, community leaders, etc., you can at least be honest with yourself in the privacy of your own home. With your close friends, you must support the religion which has your best interest at heart. Satanism is based on a very sound philosophy, says the Emancipated. But why call it Satanism? Why not call it something like humanism, or a name that would have a connotation of a witchcraft group, something a little bit more esoteric and less blatant? There is more than one reason for this. Humanism is not a religion. It is simply a way of life with no ceremony and no dogma. Satanism has both ceremony and dogma. Dogma, as will be explained, is necessary. Satanism differs greatly from all other so-called white witchcraft or magical groups in the world today. These self-righteous, supercilious religions protest, and their members use the power of magic only for altruistic purposes. Satanists look with disdain upon white witchcraft groups because they feel that altruism is sinning on the layaway plan. It is unnatural not to have the desire to gain things for yourself, and Satanism represents a form of controlled selfishness. This does not mean that you never do anything for anyone else. If you do something to make someone from whom you care happy, his happiness will give you a sense of gratification. In the Objectivism of John Galt episodes, Ayn Rand, when she's writing the John Galt speech, talks at length about this point, something like this point. If you're interested in those, you can check them out. You go to the feature topic link at abercast.com and has a breakdown in chronological order of each of these episodes and the sort of the topics they fall into. You want to go to the Western philosophy section. Where was I? Satanism advocates practicing a modified form of the Golden Rule. Our interpretation of this rule is do unto others as they do unto you. Because if you do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and they, in turn, treat you badly, it goes against human nature to continue to treat them with consideration. You should do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But if your courtesy is not returned, they should be treated with the wrath they deserve. White witchcraft groups say that if you curse a person, it will return to you threefold. Come home to roost, or in some way boomerang back to the sender. This is yet another indication of the guilt-ridden philosophy which is held by these neo-pagan, pseudo-Christian groups. White witches want to delve into witchcraft, but cannot divorce themselves from the stigma attached to it. Therefore, they call themselves white magicians and base 75% of their philosophy on the trite and hackneyed tenets of Christianity. Anyone who pretends to be interested in magic or the occult for reasons other than gaining personal power is the worst kind of hypocrite. The Satanist respects Christianity for at least being consistent in its guilt-ridden philosophy, but can only feel contempt for people who attempt to appear emancipated from guilt by joining a witchcraft group and then practice the same basic philosophy as Christianity. White magic is supposedly utilized only for the good or unselfish purposes, and black magic, we are told, is used only for the selfish or evil reasons. Satanism draws no such dividing line. Magic is magic, be it used to help or to hinder. The Satanist, being the magician, should have the ability to decide what is just and then apply the powers of magic to attain his goal. During the white magical ceremonies, the practitioners stand within a pentagram to protect themselves from the evil forces which they call upon for help. And to the Satanist, it seems a bit two-faced to call on the forces for help, while at the same time protecting yourself for the very powers you have asked for assistance. The Satanist realizes that only by putting himself in league with these forces can he be fully and unhypocritically utilize the powers of darkness to his best advantage. In a satanic magical ceremony, the participants do not join hands and dance, ring around the rosy in a circle, burn candles of various colors for various wishes, call out the names of Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. while supposedly practicing the black arts, pick a saint for their personal guide in obtaining help for their problems, dunk themselves in smelly oils and hope the money comes in, meditate so they can arrive at a great spiritual awakening, recite long incantations with the name of Jesus thrown in for good measure between every few words, etc., 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 ad nauseum, because this is not the way to practice satanic magic. If you cannot divorce yourself from hypocritical self-deceit, you will never be successful as a magician, much less a Satanist. The satanic religion has not merely lifted the coin, it has flipped it completely over. Therefore, why should it support the very principles to which it completely opposed by calling itself other than a name which is totally in keeping with the reversed doctrines which make up the satanic philosophy? Satanism is not a white light religion. It is a religion of the flesh, the mundane, the carnal, all of which are ruled by Satan, the personification of the left-hand path. Inevitably, the next question asked is, granted, you can't call it humanism because humanism is not a religion, but why even have a religion in the first place if all you do is what comes naturally anyways? Why not just do it? Modern man has come a long way. He has become disenchanted with the nonsensical dogmas of past religions. We are living in an enlightened age. Psychiatry has made great strides in enlightening man about his true personality, and we are living in an era of intellectual awareness unlike any the world has ever seen. This is all very well and good, but there is one flaw in this new state of awareness. It is one thing to accept something intellectually, but to accept the same thing emotionally is entirely different matter. The one need that psychiatry cannot fill is man's inherent need for emotionalizing through dogma. Man needs ceremony and ritual, fantasy and enchantment. Psychiatry, despite all the good it has done, has robbed man of wonder and fantasy, which religion in the past has provided. So, one of my pet things I like to talk about is the lack of ceremony and ritual. So I just need to make a note of this so I can come back to it later. Satanism, realizing the current need of man, fills the large gray void between religion and psychiatry. The satanic philosophy combines the fundamentals of psychology and good, honest, emotionalizing or dogma. It provides man with his much needed fantasy. There is nothing wrong with dogma, providing it is not based on ideas and actions which go completely against human nature. The quickest way of traveling between 2 points is in a straight line. If all the guilts that have been built up can be turned into advantages, it eliminates the need for intellectual purging of the psyche in an attempt to cleanse it from these repressions. Satanism is the only religion known to man that accepts man as he is and promotes the rationale of turning a bad thing into a good thing rather than bending over backwards to eliminate the bad thing. So here's another thing we're talking about, right? Always talking about the occult or magic as psychology. Here we go. All right. Therefore, after intellectually evaluating your problems through common sense and drawing what psychiatry has taught us, if you still cannot emotionally release yourself from unwarranted guilt and put your theories into actions, then you should learn to make your guilt work for you. You should act upon your natural instincts, and then if you cannot perform without feeling guilty, revel in your guilt. This may sound like a contradiction in terms, but if you will think about it, guilt can often add a fillip to the senses. Adults would do well to take a lesson from the children. Children can often take great delight in doing something they know they are not supposed to do. Yes, times have changed, but man hasn't. The basics of Satanism have always existed. The only thing that is new is this formal organization of a religion based on the universal traits of man. For centuries, magnificent structures of stone and concrete and steel have been devoted to man's abstinence. It is high time that human beings stop fighting themselves and devout in their time building temples designed for man's indulgences. Even though times have changed and always will, man remains basically the same for 2,000 years. Man has done penance for something he never should have had to feel guilty about in the first place. We are tired of denying ourselves the pleasures of life which we deserve today. As always, man needs to enjoy himself here and now instead of waiting for his rewards in heaven. So why not have a religion based on indulgence? Certainly it is consistent with the nature of the beast. We are no longer supplicating weaklings trembling before the unmerciful God who cares not whether we live or die. We are self-respecting, prideful people. We are Satanists.
Learn more at abracast.com. Get bonus content by signing up for the mailing list. Get all that plus many exclusive episodes by supporting the show at patreon.com or subscribestar.com.
When listening to This Will Scare You, heed this warning. This weekly podcast contains stories about ghosts, demons, cryptids, murderers, and much, much more. These stories are allegedly true.
He asked what she was talking about, and she said that he had been upstairs smiling and waving to her from the second-story window. He told her he hadn't even been upstairs in the house.
Yeah, I'd believed in ghosts. I'd never had any experiences until I started working at the Comedy Store.
This person comes out of the bushes, this like woman, she comes out of the bushes and she knocks on my window. And I go, hi, and she goes, hi, can I have a ride?
And our little brother was taking a nap on the couch in the living room, which is directly across from the twin house. And he said he woke up to a little ghost girl hugging him.
I believe in energies, and possibly, especially after tonight, spirits. Well, there's definitely a fucking ghost in my fucking house.
This Will Scare You is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you're thinking of listening alone, don't.
All right, let's get back into this. Before we do, I would just like to remind everyone to check out Advertise.com, check out the store section, the tarot cards. The art on these tarot cards are nothing like you're going to see anywhere else. They're not just regurgitations of a Waite Rider deck. They're not just regurgitations of a Toth deck, and they're not nonsensical. There's a lot of research and stuff that's been going on with them. If you sign into the Fulgar Correspondentia, which is the newsletter, there's a link to a Google Doc that I've been working on. It's well over like 150, I can't remember what the page count is, 150, 160 pages, something like that, of me just typing out about these cards. So that, you know, there's that. Also the t-shirts. I have a lot of fun with the t-shirts. And I guess the ones that I want to just call out for this episode is the brand new, the Satanic Goat t-shirt with Samael and Lilith, the pentagram, and the classic Baphomet, as above, so below. But also there's the Osculum Infame shirt, which I did a couple weeks ago for a witchcraft episode, but I mean, it fits. I mean, there's a devil, there's a butthole. So, check this out. On the Fellow Craft episode this month, it's the Fellow Craft episode. It's the Patreon and Subscribestar exclusive episode. We're in the middle of a series on the Count Saint Germain, who is this immortal dandy wandering through Europe. It's been a couple of fun episodes. I think I got one more. Anyhow, so let's get back to this LaVey and Satanic Bible. Hell, the devil, and how to sell your soul. Satan has certainly been the best friend the church has ever had, as he kept it all in business all these years. The false doctrine of hell. And the devil has allowed the Protestant and Catholic churches to flourish far too long. Without a devil to point their fingers at, religionists of the right-hand path would have nothing with which to threaten their followers. Satan leads you to temptation. Satan is the prince of evil. Satan is vicious, cruel, and brutal, they warn. If you give in to the temptations of the devil, you will surely suffer an eternal damnation and roast in hell. The semantic meaning of Satan is the adversary or opposition or the accuser. The very word devil comes from the Indian Devi, which means God, small g. Satan represents opposition to all religions which serve to frustrate and condemn man for his natural instincts. He has been given an evil role simply because he represents the carnal, the earthly, and mundane aspects of life. The Osculum Infame. See the Osculum Infame t-shirt. Satan, you can just go to Pornhub and see it there. Satan is the chief devil of the Western world and originally an angel whose duty it was to report human delinquencies to God. It was not until the 14th century that he began to be depicted as an evil deity who was part man and part animal, with the goat-like horns and hooves, the Satanic goat of Mendes. Before Christianity, God gave him the names of Satan, Lucifer, etc. The carnal side of man's nature was governed by the god, which was then called Dionysus or Pan, depicted as a satyr or a faun by the Greeks. Pan was originally the good guy and symbolized fertility and fecundity. Whenever a nation comes under a new form of government, the heroes of the past become the villains of the present. So it is with religion. The earliest Christians believed that the pagan deities were devils, and to employ them was to use black magic. Miraculously, heavenly events they termed white magic, and this sole distinction between the two. The old gods did not die, but they fell into hell and became the devils. The bogey, goblin, the boogaboo used to frighten children is derived from the Sylvanic bog, which means God, small g, as does Bhaga in Hindu. Many pleasures revered before the advent of Christianity were condemned by the new religion. It required little change over to transform the horns and the cloven hooves of Pan into the most convincing devil. Pan's attributes would be neatly changed into the charged with punishment sins, and to the metamorphosis was completed. The association of the goat with the devil is found in the Christian Bible, wherein the holiest day of the year, the Day of Atonement, was celebrated by casting lots for 2 goats without blemish. One was to be offered to the Lord and one to Azazel, The goat carrying the sins of the people was driven into the desert to become the scapegoat. This is the origin of the goat, which is still used in lodge ceremonies today. It is also used in Egypt, where once a year it is sacrificed to a god. He says to a god, but he says to a capital G God, to a god. I don't know if that's important. The devil of mankind are many in their origins, diversified, and the performance of satanic ritual does not embrace the calling forth of demons. This practice is followed only by those who are in fear of the very forces they conjure. Supposedly, demons are malevolent spirits with attributes conducive to the deterioration of the people or events that they touch upon. The Greek word demon meant a guardian spirit or a source of inspiration, to be sure. Later theologians invented legion upon legion of these harbingers of inspiration, and they were all wicked. An indication of the cowardice of magicians of the right-hand path, the practice of calling upon particular demons who would supposedly be a minion of the devil to do his bidding. This assumption is that the demon, being only a flunky of the devil, is easier to control. Occult lore states that only the most formidably protected or insanely foolhardy sorcerer would try to call forth the devil himself. The Satanist does not fervently call the devil these lesser devils, but brazenly invokes those who people that infernal army of long-standing outrage, the devils themselves. Theologians have cataloged some of the names of devils. Their lists of demons might be expected, but the roster which follows contains the names most effectively used in satanic ritual. These are the names and the origins of the gods and the goddesses called upon, which make up a large part of the occupancy of the royal palace of hell. So there are pages of these. Here, let's go. We'll touch on a few of them and we'll finish up. The four crowned princes of hell. Satan, Hebrew, the adversary, the opposite, the accuser, the Lord of fire, the inferno, the south. Lucifer, Roman, the bringer of light, the enlightenment, the air, the morning star, the east. Belial, Hebrew, without a master, the baseness of the earth, the independence of the north. And Leviathan, the Hebrew, the serpent out of the deep, the sea, in the west. Here are some of the infernal names. You're going to recognize some of these. I mean, we've done episodes upon episodes of the Greater and the Lesser Key of Solomon. This is the Shemhem Farash. Abaddon, the Destroyer. Asmodeus, the devil of sensuality and luxury, originally a creature of judgment. Astaroth, the Phoenician goddess of lasciviousness, the equivalent of the Babylonian Ishtar. Azazel, taught to make weapons of war and introduced cosmetics. So this is the second time Azazel has come up here in our episode this evening. And if you're interested in him, I would go back to maybe the feature topic links to the Genesis episodes and find all the Book of Enoch stuff and all the Genesis 6 stuff. Because Azazel was one of those guardian angels who was like, hey bro, it's all about the earth chicks, and came down for the earth chicks. Since I mentioned that, there's also a It's All About the Earth Chicks t-shirt out there. Balaam, the Hebrew devil of avarice and greed. Baphomet, worshipped by the Templars as a symbolic Satan. Bast, we know Bast, and Sekhmet. Is Sekhmet in here? Let me see. Yes. Bast and Sekhmet. This is, I'm not going to say it's from, this is so silly. It's not from Black Panther, but Black Panther mentioned in Civil War when Black Widow's talking to the Black Panther and he goes Bast and Sekhmet, and there's the green belt there. All the the passed on Black Panthers can run forever in the green belt. So here's Bast, the Egyptian goddess of pleasure, represented by the cat, and Sekhmet, the Egyptian goddess of vengeance. Beelzebub, the lord of the flies, taken from the symbolism of the scarab. It's funny, there's actually a lot written about Beelzebub in the Lord of the Flies. It's actually the lord of shit, because the flies come to the shit. Philistinian avenging devil of the sea. Dagon, Demigorgon, the name of the devil, Greek. It is said should not be known to mortals. I'm just jumping through here, seeing what stuff would jump out from like pop culture, right? Lilith. Her name is actually on the Satanic Goat t-shirt that's now available. Hebrew, the female devil, Adam's first wife who taught him the ropes. You can go back in some of those Gnostic, maybe even Gnosticism, the feature topic link in Gnosticism, sex magic, and Genesis. You could find some Lilith stuff in there. Mephistopheles. Mephistopheles. I had to practice it a couple times. Mephistopheles. He who shuns the light. This is from the Faust play. Moloch, the Phoenician and Canaanite devil. Boy, we got some Moloch stuff coming up. It's going to be a little bit, but it's going to be good. Pluto, the Greek god of the underworld. Samael, the venom of God. Sekhmet, we already did. Shai Hatan, the Arabic name for Satan. Thoth, the Egyptian god of magic. And Wenlo Wang, the Chinese ruler of hell. All right, we're gonna skip through some of this stuff here and just wrap this up. The Protestant hell and the Catholic hell are places of eternal punishment. However, the Catholics also believe there is a purgatory where all souls go for a time, and a limbo where unbaptized souls go. The Buddhist hell is divided into 8 sections, the first 7 of which can be expiated. The ecclesiastical description of hell is that it is a horrible place of fire and torment. In Dante's Inferno, in the northern climes, it was thought to be an icy cold region, a giant refrigerator. Most Satanists do not accept Satan as an anthropomorphic being with cloven hooves and a barbed tail and horns. He merely represents a force of nature, the powers of darkness, which have been named just that because no religion has taken these forces out of the darkness, nor has science been able to apply technical terminology to this force. It is an untapped reservoir that few can make use of because they lack the ability to use a tool without having to first break down and label all the parts within to make it run. It is an incessant need to analyze, which prohibits most people from taking advantage of this many-faceted key to the unknown, which Satanists choose to call Satan. Satan as a god, a demigod, a personal savior, or whatever you wish to call him, was invented by the formulators of every religion on the face of the earth for only one purpose: to preside over man's so-called wicked activities in the situations here on earth. Consequently, anything resulting in physical or mental gratification was defined as evil, thus assuring a lifetime of unwarranted guilt for everyone. So if evil, they have named us, evil we are. And so what? The Satanic Age is upon us. Why not take advantage of it and live? It says "and live," and it has a little footnote, and when you look at the footnote, it says "evil" reversed. So there's a lot to be said today. Nowadays, it seems like we're looking down the barrel of revelations here in some ways, and it's easy for me to get wrapped up. And you know me, I've said a lot of awful things about the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament. And, I've said a lot of good things, I guess, about some of these, what could be construed as opposing forces and whatnot. And, I kind of got charged up and listened to reading LaVey here this evening, and I get revved up when I do Crowley and and stuff. But at the same time, I'm like, this is like metaphorically, and spiritually speaking, my critiques or my, I don't know, I'm not signing on to Satanism. I'm not signing on to Satanism. But it's the mission of the show to explore these things. We crack the old and the new tomes and we read them. Because it's like, if you do away with Catholicism, or if you do away with Protestantism, or you do away with this stuff in the context of history, we'd all be speaking Pishtun or something right now. We'd all be, we'd all be in we'd all be in the, I don't know, the 1500 year the 1500th year of the caliphate. You have to take the dogma and the rules as they come with the church. But at the same time, you also have to, and you also can't be like, well, if there was no such thing as a religion or a church or whatever, then there wouldn't be a Muhammad. Well, look, you have to take these things as they're dealt, right? So the reason that we're not all speaking Pishtun or Arabic, and we're not all wearing, I don't know, tablecloths all the time and walking around wiping our asses with our hands and all this other kind of stuff. It is the church. And you look around at the shit that's going on today, and you're like, man, am I on the right side of all this stuff with this podcast? Or what's going on with all this stuff? But I do love the Satanic Bible. I love reading it. And if LaVey is nothing if not entertaining, I guess that's where I get hung up on it. So, hey, I'm John. This is the Abercast. I want to take a second to just point out about the staring down the barrel of revelations, as I just said. We're not going to know who's in charge after the election. No one's going to know after the election for probably weeks, if not months. So I don't have a sponsorship with anybody, and I'm not going to push anybody in any other kind of way other than jump on Google and find some emergency food. Find some like that camping food, or like the fucking old school MREs or something, and just throw them down in your basement, and hopefully you can forget about them, and they'll last you 50 years, and you could use them as a joke the next time you take your kids camping or something like that. But, this whole COVID-19 thing I feel like could be a dry run for what's happening. So, I'm stocking up on booze. I'm dusting off my emergency food, making sure I got it. I ordered a couple extra magazines. I got my rig out. I'm just kidding. It's not a rig, but I got some of my equipment dusted up. I did a gun maintenance day the other day. So I'm just getting ready. The worst case scenario when, supply lines start breaking down, you guys aren't starving to death. And I don't want to be an alarmist for sure, but I just kind of wanted to just like, hey, if I got your ear, let me bend it for a second and let me put this idea in your brain. Go get some of that camping food that lasts for 50 years. Go get some of that. And hopefully we don't need it. I'm John, this is the Advertise.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Send an email or visit us on social media to let us know what you think about this topic. And please remember to leave a 5-star rate and review.
Hey, did you learn something? Did you laugh? Supporting me is a way for you to be a part of the Advertise and ensure its growth and sustainability. It also means I can create a normal schedule for shows and bonus shows, as well as the exclusive Fellowcraft episodes. By supporting the show, you are not only a listener, but you are a part of the show. You supporting the show gives me a way to offer fun rewards as a thank you for showing your appreciation and support for our projects. Do you have an idea for a reward that you don't see? Let me know. My supporters are my partners. I currently pay for you to listen to the Advertise. Not only do I pay the hosting bills out of my own pocket, I volunteer my time and talent to each and every episode of the Advertise. The price of books, the time and resources of reading and researching, the massive amounts of gin and tonic needed, the equipment it takes to record the shows, the time and resources it takes to create the bonus material, and the cost to maintain the internet presence. Is it worth your support? I don't know. I'm proud of the Advertise, and I feel like I'm improving all the time. In addition to creating the show that you dig and that you are excited about, I also have a full-time commitment and other obligations. So why financial support? All of the supporters help me focus my time on the quality and development of the podcast. And what if you can't afford, $1 or $3 or $10 or whatever a month? Believe me, I get that. There are many degrees of support, but if you can't support the show financially, please consider leaving a 5-star rate and review on your preferred podcast app. And don't forget that you could sign into the mailing list and still unlock a lot of bonus content. Thank you. I cannot put into words how much it means to me that you listen to the show each time I post a new episode. Your feedback, support, and love of the stories that we talk about here is what keeps me going.